kicking for you like it's 9-3. You see, Rob impact the mic, keeping it real, G. Talk about relationships, money, and health. Dropping knowledge while I'm spitting it, that's a wealth.
Complex conversations, we break it down. Pop culture topics, we hold it down. Dive deep into society's complexities. Educate, entertain, never resting in complex
Context, where the truth unfolds. Analyzing life through stories untold. Rob impact, dropping knowledge every day.
Unpacking life's complexities, one topic at a time. You're listening to Complex Context. Here is your host, Rob Impact.
This is Complex Context, and I am your host, Rob Impact. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me for another episode where we get to discuss a little bit of life's complexities, unpack them together, and figure out what the heck is going on from day to day. I'm excited about this episode for a couple of reasons. One is I have a new pop filter on the mic, so I'm hoping that any kind of clicks or pops that you may have heard in a past episode or two hopefully will be gone. Hopefully you're hearing me quite all right. So we'll see how this works out. I'm also excited for the fact that we're going to debut a new segment on this episode. It is just a whole lot of fun and craziness. That's all I'm going to say. How has your week been? My week has been awesome. I want to give a lot of love to my wife who had a birthday. Happy birthday to you. I love you very much. We had quite a gathering of people over at the house. It was nice. We did a backyard thing. We got food coming in. It was great. Lots of good music, good conversation. Kids were crazy. They were crazy, but we survived, and that's what counts. So very happy about that, and very happy that the day after this get-together, which was my wife's actual birthday, we got a couple of gifts, my daughter and I, for her, and she seemed to enjoy them, and we felt good that she had a couple of things that really clicked. One thing in particular was something that she had before, but unfortunately got broken, and it was a case of me having to track it down. Thankfully, I found it. It was only one available. It's an item that's no longer made, so being able to find it, give it over to my daughter so she could present it as a gift, that was awesome. That really felt good. There's been a lot of good eating to celebrate the birthday. I'm not too sure. I know it's her birthday, and a lot of what we had both at her birthday bash get-together yesterday and this morning for our various breakfast items. Birthdays never tasted so good when I was younger, and I'm glad that she has a lot of this deliciousness coming to her as she's another year older, but looks just as beautiful as the day I met her. And I'm very thankful that she got to celebrate the way that she did. Now, if you happen to, as I've said the past couple episodes, hear any kind of little whirring in the background, the studio HVAC just kicked in. It is still here in Massachusetts a very muggy summer. The temperatures have been pretty good, but it has come and gone, the humidity, and unfortunately I don't know from one moment to the next if that humidity is kicking in and it's going to cause the AC to kick in and the whole HVAC system. So, as I've said, this is kind of a recurring theme over the past few episodes. If you hear that in the background, please pay no mind to it as best as you can. Now, the easier thing for me to do would be to ignore it completely, but I don't want you to think that I dropped the ball and all of a sudden there's some kind of weird gas leak going on or something like that. So it is for your, let's say, your peace of mind to know that I'm okay, which is why I want to explain that. I also want to give a shout out to who is supposedly the number one listener, and I have no reason to doubt her, Geneva. It was great to see you. I appreciate your listening and following the show, and you're a pretty cool person. I'm glad that we have you around the neighborhood, and I look forward to hearing about you hearing you be mentioned on the show. So please keep listening as much as you would like to, and I appreciate the support. Has your week been a wonderful one like mine? What did you do? How have you been taking care of yourself and going about your day to day over the past week? Feel free to reach out. I would love to hear some feedback and let me know where you're listening from. A shout going out to all of our listeners. As we always can see globally, we have a good support network. I appreciate it. Everybody from the U.S. and Canada, Europe. You guys are awesome. And everywhere in between. I don't want to leave anybody out, but feel free to let us know where you're from. We'd love to give you a shout. In my going out and getting various errands done and just having my day-to-day commute, I've noticed a lot lately that people have this kind of tendency to think that they're the exception of how they're supposed to carry themselves as they're out and about. Now, for some who have followed the show, we have discussed in the past driving habits. We have some terrible driving habits going on in Massachusetts and probably the New England region in general. It's been just atrocious, man. I've seen some things that I would never have seen if it weren't for YouTube videos being posted from other countries. It's crept into the United States. And driving habits are one thing. But I want to talk now specifically about others who are, I guess, in line with driving habits, but others who are also sharing the roads and the sidewalk. I have seen really a ridiculous amount of motorcycles lately on the highway going so fast I don't even want to guess how fast they're going. I've also seen a handful, as there have been a couple of traffic situations where just on the highway everybody slows down all of a sudden. I've seen more than one motorcyclist come up in between the cars that are coming to a stop and ride the lane markings so that they're literally riding on the dashed line. I've seen so many bumper stickers and magnets that say, "Motorcycles are everywhere, so please pay attention and be aware," and blah, 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 all that. So you would think that for such a campaign where it's a matter of saying, hey, motorcyclists are no less important than vehicle drivers. I totally agree with that. But that gets quickly counteracted when you see a bunch of them in succession, day after day, ride the lane markings. That's absolutely ridiculous and makes me not care about having to be any more mindful about a motorcyclist than I would somebody driving a vehicle. It doesn't make any sense to me. It reeks of special privilege. And just because you're on two wheels, that's your choice. It is not a special privilege. That was your decision. And you need to follow the rules of the road and make sure that somebody like me or somebody else doesn't cause something that we don't want to cause. For those that walk or run around the neighborhood, I've also seen a handful of folks that are ready to cross the street at an intersection. And there's two things that I've observed. One of them is that people have a tendency where there are traffic lights to push the signal to walk across. And when they have the opportunity afforded to them, they're going to cross regardless of if the light has told them it's time to or not. For example, I've seen quite a few people push the button waiting for the walk signal, and then because the traffic lights change and there's cars going the opposite direction, they're able to cross the street as they want to because cars have stopped going back and forth in that direction, but the walk sign hasn't come on yet. So they've already crossed, and now that they've crossed the street, the walk sign comes on. And now you have the entire intersection just sitting there with some goofball already 50 feet up the street. And it's like, hey, there's a responsibility there. When you call for all traffic to stop so you can safely cross, I feel it's your responsibility as the person that called that traffic signal to let you cross to wait until it tells you to cross. I don't think that's very difficult or unreasonable. You're pushing a button that basically says, I want all traffic to stop to ensure that I can get from one side of the street to the other without any worry or any kind of distraction and being able to do so. So when you initiate that request, like, why are you going before it tells you can go? Just because you can? To me, that's almost a similar scenario as if you were to schedule an Uber and all of a sudden the Uber shows up and they're like, where is dude? I don't understand. And then they call you and you're like, yeah, you know what? I scheduled it. I'm actually halfway there. So, I don't even know if I need you right now. Or if so, can you actually just meet me at the new address? Like, that's really a disrespectful thing to do, because if you're going to ask for something, you have a responsibility to own up to your side of saying, yeah, I asked for it. Let me just wait it out. I get it. Things change, but damn, man, when you push that walk signal, just stand there. It's different if you've been waiting, say, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I get it. At that point, go right ahead. But I'm talking for the people that push the button and almost instantaneously, when the light allows them to, they go, you know what? I don't even want to wait. I can just cross right now. Like, stop doing that. I also have observed people that, whether you're walking or running, like to get right near the crosswalk. Like they're approaching it. They're getting ready to go to the cross. You know that they got to cross the street from one side to the other. You see them coming up on the sidewalk, ready to get there. And all of a sudden, no, I'm going to cross about 10 feet away from the crosswalk. Why would you do that? You're 10 feet away. They're not painted across the road just to look pretty. That's the area that you're supposed to cross in. That drives me nuts. I don't understand if you're that close to the crosswalk. You're supposed to be in it. I'm just confused as to at what point did people say, you know what, this is a good enough. I feel like I should cross right here. Hot damn, in the event that you get hit crossing the street and you're not on the crosswalk, someone might say, well, I mean, this kind of is really where you're intended to walk. Why couldn't you just go there? Why did you walk outside of it? Maybe that was a contributor on why you got injured. That would be a terrible situation for all parties to be in, and I'd hate to see that. So I suppose in coming out of this, my thing is for the motorcyclists riding the lines, right, riding the lane dividing markings, for those who are walking and cross the street before they've given it enough time for the walk signal to come, and for those who are running or walking that are near a crosswalk and find the ability to cross the street, but they have to be about 10 feet outside of the markings. Please understand, we all in society have very simple things that we can follow. There's not a lot that we encounter day to day, but for those aforementioned scenarios, we have some very simple things that we can make sure are executed properly. And people feel like they're the exception. You're not the exception. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're going. I don't care how much time you have on your schedule or you don't. I could say join the club. Everybody wants to make sure that they maximize their time, but we can't keep doing this stuff. We cannot, as people that feel as though we want to be respected and we want to be taken seriously, we can't be the ones that don't lead by example if we have an expectation that people follow things because it's not difficult, right? These are the rules that we grew up with. They're not that hard to follow, and you're not that much of a Billy Badass that you can just say, you know what, I'll get close enough. Nah, close enough isn't good for me, bro. You can do it the right way, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not about being cool. It's not about saving time. It's your own agenda. Stop it. Please, folks, walk in the crosswalk. Motorcyclists, please understand, just because you have 2 wheels and I'm traveling by 4, make sure that you are either in front of me or behind me directly, because I don't want to accidentally do something that's going to knock you off. That's going to make me feel awful. And it's also going to make me feel angry because you probably brought it on yourself, riding like a dope. Folks, please, we are not the exception. Unless you have a particular situation where maybe you have some mobility issues going on, I get that. But I'm talking, generally speaking, for the able-bodied person that just decides, yeah, I don't want to stay in the lane. Yeah, I don't want to wait for the walk light. Yeah, I don't want to go right into the crosswalk. Please stop. You're not the exception. I know you feel like it. I know you think it's not that big of a deal. When people go and we have discussions like this and you say, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like, what? Why? You got to calm down. That's such a cop-out. You got to calm down. It's not about being worked up and having to calm down. It's when you hear that, 9 times out of 10, that's somebody deflecting, saying, hey, I want to draw attention to you bringing this up and draw attention away from the actual content that you're talking about, right? So this isn't about calming down or taking it too seriously. It's about following rules that at least somebody like me and a lot of the people surrounding me were brought up with. It's not that difficult. And I'm trying to figure out why you get to be the exception, supposedly, even though you're not. So let's all do our part, please. Let's make sure that as we travel around, regardless of if it's with wheels or on our feet, that we are doing so respectfully. It's the least that we could do, not just for the people around us, but for ourselves. I think everybody deserves the same degree of safety that we would expect being given to us, right? So let's do it. You're not the exception. I mentioned at the beginning of the show we have a new segment that we were debuting during this episode. Man, you want to talk about going from one side of the spectrum to the other. We're doing that coming out of that discussion, and I want to introduce this new segment, which, oh man, I love it. It's called Ridiculous Life Advice.
Ridiculous life advice.
If you need something to write with, don't choose a spoon.
Ridiculous life advice.
I told you. Listen, you never know what you're going to get here on Complex Context, so I enjoyed that very much. I hope that we have that in rotation more often than not. Hey, you know what's really kind of like wackadoodle here, if I may? Isn't it amazing how you could have certain foods that people make and you could have it come out like 5 different ways? And it's not necessarily a change of ingredients so much as just the way people prepare something, the temperature that they might set an oven at, or the amount of time that they decided to bake something. Those little variations are, well, I say little, but as you combine these various factors together, they end up causing a drastically different end result. Let's think of one of my favorite foods, pizza, right? More often than not, you have the same basic foundation of what's going into making the dough. And you might have little variations on, what kind of tomatoes are you using for the sauce and the kind of cheese and all that, right? But you have kind of the same template, generally speaking. But it's amazing how some places could just put it in a regular oven and it comes out one way. Some people would cook it in a brick oven, comes out another way. Some people will cook it at a certain temperature. Another person might cook it another 20, 25 degrees hotter. Somebody might make it in a certain time frame. Another person's going to say, nah, I'm actually going to pull it 5 minutes before you would. In all of these variations, right, can make or break how much you enjoy the food. It's really something. I took pizza, for example, because, like I said, I love pizza. Think of a lot of baked items. Think of your brownies, your muffins, your cookies. I'm telling you, if you're following a basic ingredient template with adding everything and mixing it up, that baking time and temperature could make or break a chocolate chip cookie. I'm telling you, I've had chocolate chip cookies that are so soft. I love the soft cookies. But you've had some people that have followed tried and true recipes and could make it similar to your neighbor over here who's got it down like 100%. And then they do it and it's like, yeah, man, it's a little bit crunchy, like my teeth are getting a workout here. And the difference could be as simple as they baked it at 10 degrees warmer for 5 minutes more, right? Those kinds of things are wacky when you think about it. Have you ever had that where you really know, because of your longevity here on Earth, you've had certain foods and you've built up your expectations. You know what you like. You know how you assume something should taste. But when you eat it, you're like, no, what happened here? How did you mess that up? How come it's so different than what I'm used to at a few other places? Let us know. Reach out. We would appreciate it. We are available on social media a few different ways. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/complexcontext1. You can also reach out to us on X, the former Twitter, at our username at complexcontext1. And you can send us an email. I want to know. Give us the details. complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. Never hesitate to reach out. And again, in wanting to know where you're listening from, you can take advantage of any of those. We would love to hear from you. Now it's time for something that is even better than better, if you know what I'm saying. Something that doesn't just feel good, it feels great. Let's do some positive vibes.
Kick back, relax, let me set the tone. A positive vibe that you can call your own. Complex context, bringing happiness and rhyme, feel good news. We're gonna have a good time.
Positive Vibes is the opportunity to bring news or information which is encouraging and uplifting. And Positive Vibes for this episode is surrounding a pilot study in which a team taught 2 dogs to decipher the breath of people who have been reminded of trauma by having the dogs recognize the scent of trauma reaction on various people's breath. This is amazing. There's 2 dogs. One of them is a golden retriever named Ivy, and the other one is a German Shepherd Belgian Malinois mix named Callie. And there were 25 dogs that were picked to try and see if they could go through this particular training. And those two were the only two that were skilled enough to complete the training process. And there was somebody heading up this program that wanted to see, especially with those who have PTSD, she wanted to see how this was all going to pan out. Again, this was a pilot study, so this was very fascinating. Dogs currently are trained to respond to behavioral and physical cues, but the study at hand was showing that some dogs can also detect certain trauma episodes via a person's breath. How did this happen? Like, what did they do? Scientists recruited 26 people as scent donors who were also taking part in a study about reactions of people with trauma when reminded of the trauma. And over half of the patients met the diagnostic requirements for PTSD. For scent donations, participants were reminded of certain traumatic experiences while wearing different face masks. One mask provided a calm breath sample that acted as a control, and another face mask, which was worn as participants recalled certain traumatic events, provided the quote-unquote target breath sample. So these different masks had different profiles, and when presented to the dogs were able to identify by breath when certain people were having traumatic experiences. I believe it was, if I recall correctly, a 90% effectiveness rate. And I think that's incredible. You have service dogs right now who are so talented and provide such a service. Knowing that they're able to do this and better identify when somebody is going through trauma, I think this is a big step into another awesome direction in being able to not just be and I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying it when I say a basic service dog. This is going beyond, I think, the expectations of just daily behavior and medical episodes. When you're talking about the ability to identify when somebody is mentally and emotionally experiencing a trauma flashback, that's huge. And I think we're going to have people in much better positions thanks to this study. So that was really awesome to read and certainly a positive vibe. We had a little bit of everything this episode, and that's what Complex Context is about. If you have a particular topic that you would like discussed and have my middle-aged dad self be able to provide some 411 for you on what's going on with that topic, I would love to do that. Maybe you're hoping to interact directly. We might be able to do that as well. Check out everything Complex Context at our homepage, hosted by our distribution partner, Podbean. Thank you guys at Podbean so much for what you do. We are at complexcontext.podbean.com. Don't forget you can also reach out on Facebook, reach out on X, hit us up on email. We still love the emails. And tell your friends and your family we are on over 11 different platforms, all the biggies. And one of those is YouTube. So if you want a little bit of video, not from me, but of our logo in the background and just being able to have that up, that's huge. YouTube music, that will translate well over to that. So on 11 of them, all the big boys. Please let us know what you think by subscribing, leaving a review, and reaching out. I hope your week is a great one. I'm going to continue to climb on the up and up and see where things can bring me for the next big chapter during my week. Do what you do it often, do it well. Just don't do anything I wouldn't do, and you'll be doing all right. I'm Rob Impact. Thank you so much. You take care.
Visit the show's website at complexcontext.podbean.com. Complex Context is a Mass Ed Media production.